Let me show you something. Don't say Merry Christmas, does it? It says Happy Holidays. They went and put rabbit ears on the snowman. Snowman used to represent God, but now he's got some rabbit ears. Over here, that's a baby Jesus right there. Look at that. They went and put antlers on him. That's a clear sign of the Illuminati and Satanism. Satanism right here in the middle of Seattle. Can't even go out and get a cup of coffee no more. This here is totally anti-Christmas. Check this out. So last year there's a sled and you got some Christmas stuff on there. This year they just went with a whiteout blizzard because they are trying to white out the name of Jesus.
That's right there's the worst out of all of them. Get a load of this. It actually says Merry Christmas, but look there. That's a skull wearing a Santa Claus hat, meaning the death of Christmas right there. It's also mocking it with the Jolly Roger, which is a pirate thing which comes to steal and kill. It's basically usurping the name of Christmas.
It's a war on Christmas, y'all.
War on Christmas.
Yeah, we're mostly making fun of the people who, if you need an explanation and you're that easily offended, why are you watching us? I'm not doing an explanation for this. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, guys. I decided to put Zweihander on sale, but if you buy the entire discography, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, your new album, cool, great. And there's a lot of people who don't even know that I do the music. If you guys hear the music in the beginning and end of the videos, I make the music. It's fun for me. It takes a bit of time, but it's fun. I have a ton of fun making it. Anyway, if you buy all 3 albums, you're going to get 40% off the entire price. So go ahead and grab the discography. With that extra Christmas loot, it will make you so full of merriment that you won't know what to do with yourself, and you may become a hazard to others, and that can be fun.
Krampus loves you.
He does. All right, let's go on and talk about stuff, because you got to get on a plane in like 2 hours.
Yeah, I believe I'm actually going to film this and then run. This is hilarious.
Quick mention. So the guy, Peterson, one of the co-founders of Pirate Bay, he's in trouble. They want him on $150 million in losses, which is weird because the Pirate Bay, they want like $150 million in losses from him. But Kim Dotcom, they're saying $500 million when he was running a site that was more of a competitor to Google Drive or Dropbox.
Yeah, well, so to make fun of this entirety and point out that, copying these files isn't exactly the same thing as stealing. So, for example, I've got this mug here.
Good idea.
Oh, you've got that mug there. I'm gonna steal this from you.
I've been mugged. You're gonna burn your hands.
I know, it's fine. And now he doesn't have it, and that's theft, right? So, and this is the argument, of course, that is online piracy versus theft. If in real piracy you actually go and you steal the damn thing from somebody, but in online piracy, you just copy it. And the record industry, the movie industry, they're all like, oh, it's causing us loss in money and blah, blah, blah. We're losing stuff. Okay. For every copy that exists out there, we've lost money. And so he made a machine that basically just copies Gnarls Barkley's Crazy over and 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 over, like hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of times every second.
Right. And the funny thing is it's not actually keeping the music. It's not distributing the music. It's just making a copy to be like, look, this is creating, tens of millions of dollars in losses. Look at this little machine, according to your logic. So it's sort of a slap in the face, and, it's getting a lot of headlines and that sort of thing. But I can understand their point of view, because when they make something like, a music or a movie or something, and someone else, has a copy of it, they don't need the original because they can enjoy the copy just as much as the original. So both people, the person who paid for it and the person who pirated it, are both enjoying the original. And there's, that's, okay, I agree with that. If someone takes Zweihander from, whatever, the Demonoid Kick-Ass Torrents or some website, Torrent Freak, whatever, Torrent Freak, that's not a pirate site, wherever they grab it, and hi everybody out there. It's funny, every time I go there, I've seen the comments, people being like, sorry Logan, I'm broke. Dude, if you're broke, whatever. It's fine. When you get some money, you'll not be able to sleep, and then you'll come and throw some at Bandcamp. That's cool. But the whole thing here is, yes, I am not directly making money on the sale that would have been because that person has pirated it. However, the thing that they do not take into account, the thing that's more, what's the word, viperal? That's not even, was that even a word? It's more, it's not really a tangible thing, is how much money are they going to make by spreading this media?
I pirated a copy of it because I don't have it. I don't have access to it. I don't have money to it. And suddenly, like, oh, I've got this, and I share it with you, and you run around like, holy crap, that's awesome. Where'd you get it? Well, I grabbed it here. Like, oh, I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm going to go buy it, and I'm going to encourage 10 of my friends to buy it. Now, that's maybe not the exact same ratio, but when all of these big lawsuits were kicking in, they're like, oh my God, online piracy, we're losing so much money. They were making record profits. So it's just like, shut up.
Well, beyond that, I mean, you have to think, okay, so you're embiggening your brand. Like if you have a band or something, there are a lot of bands out there who would be nobodies if it wasn't for piracy, because that's the quickest and easiest way to distribute their album. Well, they were already big before this was a problem, before Napster.
Metallica made themselves big by sharing tapes.
They were already sharing tapes. Yeah, tapes.
But the argument there is that you get a loss. You get every recording you get it's less and less quality. I'm like, great. So I'm the guy with the original, and I'm going to make 40 copies and give them to my friends. Now every single one of them's got a one generation away from that, not a master, but the original tape that you buy from the store. And if they copy it, it gets worse and degraded. But regardless, Metallica got big with pirated mixtapes and music that was shared. Radio. I mean, how many times does a radio play on the air? I mean, that's every single time that's played is technically copied over to the airways, and everybody can hear it. Oh my God, they've lost so much money. Anyway,
we need a new function for the middleman. I think that's the biggest problem right now, because the middlemen only make money on that original tangible sale. Metallica, if everyone shares their stuff, they make money because all of a sudden now they're way bigger than they would have been before. And when they have a concert, they have more fans. They have a way bigger audience for their merchandise, their T-shirts, and all that sort of thing.
That was interesting that you point that out, because there was a metal show I went to in Phoenix, and one of the bands was like, "I'm so surprised that you guys are all singing along to our music because we've only sold 1,000 copies in the States. Where are you guys getting our music? Because you all know it. We've been across this country. We've seen more than 1,000 people at our shows. Go buy a T-shirt." If you told them, go buy a T-shirt. You owe us that. Go buy a T-shirt.
I totally agree with that.
Thank you for coming for the show. Go buy a T-shirt.
Yeah, it's funny. I have more band T-shirts than anyone, and it's weird. If you buy a T-shirt, and if the band is on a record label, and you go and buy a T-shirt, you're helping them more than you would, like 2 or 3-fold, if not more, than if you would have purchased it through their middleman publishing company.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different angles to this, and it's something we could really, really dig into. But all the studies have shown that piracy is not doing as much damage. It's mostly not doing any damage to the actual industry.
And we'll move along, but we'll eventually have like an hour-long drunken hyperbole about piracy.
I bet I know who's drunk today. Kim Dotcom. So Kim Dotcom, of course, Mega Upload. He's been in court for a while in Auckland, New Zealand, and they finally just ruled that, yes, he can be extradited to the USA for charges of copyright racketeering and
embezzlement, and there was money laundering.
So they've got him on all these things. They really they have a hard-on for this guy.
They basically threw the "you're part of the mob" at him, is basically what they said. And that this is an ongoing thing. Anyway, so this right here, they said that, yes, he's eligible for extradition. And he's before they even got out of the courtroom, his lawyers were like, "Okay, red envelope, appeal." So
it'll be tied up for a while. But I still think it's kind of ridiculous that there's always been a double standard with the Mega Upload, and they've gone after him because he's flamboyant and he doesn't play by the rules. He kind of flips the bird. Does I even say that? Does people say that anymore? The bird?
It's an old British saying.
Oh, well, he flips the bird. I don't know how. I need to look up the etymology.
He flips them the bird. Anyway,
to the entire industry. And you can do the same exact thing with Dropbox. You do the same exact thing with Apple, whatever. I have a hard drive in the cloud somewhere. I think that's what it's called, right? And then Google Drive, Microsoft's OneDrive. I don't know what these. I don't use any of this.
OneDrive, Google Drive.
You can do the same exact
Box,
things
Dropbox,
with any of them.
There's all any of these cloud storage things that have the ability to share a link. Even mega.co.nz, which he's no longer a part of, but all of them. You can still do the same thing with all of them. It's not recommended. I mean, anyway, it's again another long story. Everybody's familiar with it. If you're not, go read on this one, because there's a lot to catch up on.
I think it's ridiculous that they're able to extradite someone who's never stepped foot on U.S. soil, and I mean, that's weird to me. I don't know. They're going to make an example out of him if they can, but he'll tie it up in court for a while.
I don't know. I think if he gets extradited and brought to the U.S., I think he hopefully will still have enough cash left over to hire some attorneys that actually will allow him to fight here and prove that what he was doing as a business owner with a platform was not all of the things that they were saying. There's a few things that he may have copied or shared some files with some buddies of his that work for him, but to turn around and say that he's, effectively the same thing as organized crime, I think is ridiculous.
If he shows up here to try the case, and anybody out there thinks he's going to have a fair trial, they're wrong.
That's true as well.
It's going to be a complete charade. Charade? Charade.
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 Now, speaking of piracy, this is something that I actually, again, speaking of piracy being theft or not theft, I would put this into the category of closer to theft than it is to just, hey, it's great.
I think this is extremely damaging from almost an art and a cultural standpoint.
Yes. This one here is The Hateful Eight, which is the new Quentin Tarantino movie, was pirated from a screener that was sent to a voting member of the SAG or whatever? They do the awards every year. They've got voting members.
They have TV or movie executive.
Yeah. So, this guy happens to run the Alcon Entertainment Company. It was the CEO. It was addressed to him, and one of his assistants picked it up, signed for it, and somewhere between him signing for it and getting onto the internet, it got handed around and got passed to the internet, and they were able to trace it back to him because those DVDs for the screeners, which are, again, full movies, completely, they were like 99% the same as you'd see in the theater. They're tagged with a subtitle that basically says this belongs to so and so, and it's the serial number. That means it was sent to.
Yeah, it could be digitally signed or however they do it. Even some of them have done it by using strange refresh rate methods and stuff that the human eye can't see, and just they've done a lot of different ways to tag these things. The reason I think this is extremely damaging is, Quentin Tarantino is an artist and a filmmaker and all that sort of thing, and he has plot twists, and he's created a story here. And it's going to break artificially before it was ready to be broken in the complete wrong way. So it's kind of ruining what he's created in a way.
And I want to specify that it's not so much that they were pirating the movie. It's that they were pirating the movie that was a screener before it was ever released in theaters. So there were like 600,000 downloads for this one movie. And it's like, that's 500,000 people. That's our entire audience on YouTube. All of our subscriber base on YouTube. That's all of them. They, that number of people. And then they're talking to people downloaded, about the plot. Watched the movie, talked to people about the plot. But this is all before it ever got to theaters. So anybody who would have gone and seen it in the theaters doesn't even have the option to yet. And this right here, I find as a gross over. This is. Pirate it. Wait till it's after it's in the theaters.
Let's say, Empire Strikes Back was coming out, right? And nobody knew, because it wasn't even in the script. There's fuzz on the front of your cup. Oh my word! There, no more fuzz on the logo. It should have burned up. So no one knew that Darth Vader was Luke's father. It was not in the script. He said Obi-Wan killed your father. That was the line that was in the script. That's what Harrison Ford thought the line was. Even Harrison Ford didn't know until he saw the movie. Now, can you imagine if someone got a copy of that a couple of weeks ahead of time and just put it all out there? It would have ruined the movie for a lot of people. That major plot twist would have been completely destroyed. And listen, I know people are going to be like, well, that's stupid. You don't support one way, but you support the other way as being piracy. This is damaging on an art level.
This is about
the same as someone. This is the same as someone painting over the Mona Lisa almost.
This is about This is about timing, and it's one thing for a piece of art or a movie of this sort to be pirated by an individual who does not have access to it. It's another thing to pirate a copy of something that has not yet been released to the public. This would be if you were to go and sneak into Quentin Tarantino's editing room and copy the movie files off of his editing machine and then render the movie yourself or even edit it yourself and modify and then put it out there. You have that's very different than the movie's been in theaters for a week and now you go download it. Or you watch it in the theater, or just you don't watch it in the theater, but you go download it because you have the money to go to it. Or if you're in a country that doesn't have the ability to access this, and then you make a copy of it, they're never going to make money from that country anyway. So it's irrelevant whether or not the person downloaded it or not in that aspect. And that's, again, the piracy versus theft thing. My point with this and my issue with this is that this was done before it was released, before it had a chance to earn back. I mean, this was a $10 million movie to make.
So this is
$70 million movie to make. There was another one that was like $100 million to make. And this is before they even had a chance to put it into the box office to get ticket sales. I mean, if the movie was really terrible, 600,000 people can sit back and be like, okay, this movie's terrible. This is all the bad parts about it. This is why it's stupid. And if everybody's talking about it ahead of time, you're going to read a review on it. It's like, well, the reviews doesn't even... I mean, you're going to get a little more honest maybe out of some of these people who pirated it from the review side of things, but it's still, if I were to have logged into your computer and stolen copies of files from Zweihander Music...
Before it was out.
Just started posting them on YouTube in its own video file with just that music before you're not even done with it.
You've just downplayed the significance of the release date, which cannot be understated.
Punch me in the face.
Like the release date is a huge deal. There's a lot of excitement and everything built up before that one day. It would have been extremely damaging to the initial release. Now, I want to say that I've said that I don't think piracy, before this, I've said that I don't think it is an extremely negative thing for the industry. I don't think that it's really damaging the industry. At the same time, I absolutely do not support piracy. I'm not like for it. I'm not telling anybody out there to go and pirate. I want to also just say that before we move on, because if you're out there and there's no other way, I still would not support piracy, but I know people do it, and I just don't think it's damaging the industry. I buy my games and stuff because especially, on sites like Good Old Games where you can, where they get a bigger cut than Steam according to mysteries and stuff. And also just if you can buy things directly from the publisher, I always try to do that because if someone makes something good, I always want to try to support it so that they'll continue to make something good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's probably enough with all the piracy talk for now. More on this some other time.
But speaking of piracy fun stuff and malware and other really weird things that are going on in the industry, Windows 10, it basically goes, hey, would you like to install this now or later?
Yeah, there's no option for no. It's like a really creepy sales tactic. When you join a sales team, they're like, don't ask yes and no questions. Ask, which one would you like questions. Would you like to install it now or in 10 minutes? Would
you like the blue BMW or the white BMW?
Well, I never wanted a BMW. Oh, you have to pick one. I'm sorry. There's no other option.
This was there was a study that they did this with like a food line, and it was originally they were like, you don't want peas, do you? And 90% of people were like, no. And then it was like, would you like some peas? And people were like, yeah. So it went from like 90% no to like 50% would say yes. And then it was like, do you want one scoop or two?
So that's what Microsoft's
95% of people were like, I'll take one or two, but they all took 95% of people took the peas from the guy serving it out. So in this case here, it's the same thing. Do you want to install it now or later? Now the really annoying part is the machine that we're recording this on had this, and we shut it up over and over and over again.
I kept clicking on later,
and then we left it on for 3 days while we were out, and we came back and Windows 10 was installed.
Yeah, we came back from China, and I was like, dude,
what happened?
The computer has Windows 10 now. It just has Windows 10.
It's a travesty.
Yeah.
Anyway, Microsoft, thanks, guys.
The only thing I'm waiting on right now is the drivers for the stupid AverMedia capture device that we have in there. They have not been made available on Linux at all. So I may just sell all the AverMedia stuff and get another one of those
Magewells
that we have, because that works on Linux. Yeah, I think
it just gets really warm. That's the only problem I have with it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to switch over to one of those, and we'll liquid nitrogen cool it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So this is a very strange thing. I will just make a quick mention of this, but the Australian government is encouraging people to turn off their two-factor authentication.
And it's one of those. It sounds like a good idea until you say it out loud. And you're like, oh, wait, that's really stupid. And the idea was, when you are traveling overseas and you are using a foreign cell phone provider and you don't have access to your own phone number, turn off your two-factor authentication so we don't send text messages to your cell phone because you won't be able to log in.
Well, there's got to be an ulterior motive, because that is so stupid. I'm sorry.
I don't think it's ulterior motive. I think this is straight up...
just stupidity?
Gross negligence at the highest order. And the idea is that, again, when you say it like that, when you're traveling overseas, you want to have access to some of these services. So in order to gain access to it, you need to turn off your two-factor authentication, because otherwise text messages will be sent to a phone number that doesn't actually have the ability to get a text, or it won't get to your phone.
It's a slight hassle to have to swap out a different SIM card. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I mean, they're trying to save people.
Get a two-SIM phone. You're fine.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have that, or have a cheaper phone that doesn't do that, but still, it's a very small hassle if you need to. It's only for the Australian MyGov stuff. If you really need access to the MyGov stuff, just take a moment and swap out your SIM. And I'm not even sure why they even tweeted this. They should have just kept their mouth shut. They shouldn't have gotten involved. They shouldn't have said anything. They should have been like...
Again, it's one of those things that...
It's stupid.
In the brainstorm, I can see these group of government officials going, this is a great idea. We're having problems with people overseas getting access to our stuff. We need them to be able to gain access to it. Why don't we just tell them to turn this off when they're overseas? The problem with that is that when they're overseas and they turn that off, they just made themselves more vulnerable for people breaking into their damn accounts. Anyway, like I said, it sounded like a great idea until you said it out loud, and then it was just like, oh, that's really dumb.
Guys, grab LAN Syndicate tickets immediately. You only have another week to get them at the $75 price, and then it goes up to $90 in January. And the reason for that is because we have to pay a huge sum of money in the beginning of January. So the more ticket sales we have, the more likely we are to be able to book the facility. That's when the down payments due. It's huge.
Yeah, it's big.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to have Barnacle is going to be there for sure. Timmy Tech TV is going to be there for sure. Paul's Hardware is going to be there for sure. Kyle said maybe. We've got several other YouTubers and things that, that we're trying to invite. If there's someone there that you would like to see, possibly not a tech YouTuber, more of a... I'm looking for some game personalities to invite. Let me know. I'd be very curious.
Let's invite Fatality.
Fatality, if he wants to come.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Some of the younger generations are scared of him for some reason. They're like, oh, well, I know a lot of the MOBA players are like, who's this guy? So I'm not sure.
You know that motherboard you have? Yeah.
His name's on it.
His name's on it, yeah.
Because someone at ASRock really wants his name on that thing.
Exactly. Anyway, no. If you have any other ideas, go ahead and put them in the comments. It'd be great to see on the website, because I don't read the YouTube comments.
All right, and I want to say thanks to everybody else for, grabbing stuff on the forum. That's why we keep things at a good price. We're also on Amazon Prime in the US and Amazon Prime in the UK now. The UK does not ship to many other places in Europe, so I may have to do Amazon.de as well. But it's going to be... I have to figure a lot of things out for that to work. You have to have an address there to ship returns to, so we'll get it figured out eventually. But we're working on getting bigger in Europe. May just set up a separate warehouse over there, but Anyway, thanks very much for
everything.
For everything, guys. You guys are awesome. Also, thanks very much for this. This has been really helpful.
Yeah.
And
got a lot of stuff in the pipe that it's been really hectic because we have everything that's been going on, but we have a lot of stuff in the pipe and a lot of new content that's being crafted.
We did have a miscommunication about the RSS feed for the podcast. It's fixed now. So Wendell thought someone else was doing it, and we thought Wendell was doing it. So he finished it, but never turned it on.
So it's on now.
And I was like, Wendell, where's that thing? He's like, oh, it's finished, but someone told me that you guys were doing something different. And I was like, who told you that? What's going on here?
It's just miscommunication. So sorry about that, guys. It is fixed now. So going forward, all of them will be there. And as we have time, we're going to retroactively add them to the older.
We're paying an intern to go back and
there's 200 of them. It takes time.
He has to open up each individual one and re-upload it because it has to go to S3, and then it'll be automatically added to our RSS feed, which will be on our website and also on iTunes and a number of other services. So yeah, it's fun. But anyway, we've got lots of cool things happening, and as soon as we move, we'll be able to get down to work. That's enough to hire maybe one more person, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe. So, I think it's funny. A lot of the kids. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not. We're making money other ways, but it's like, guys, you have to understand, we're not eating steak dinners at all. Like, people think that, wow, you guys must be rich.
Only when somebody else is paying for it.
If someone sat in their basement and lived off their mother's dime and made that much money, they would be doing just fine. But we've got like 4 or 5 people now, so every little penny helps, and it's really awesome to make the content better. But I think it's just really weird that I see all these people online being like almost jealous. It's weird. Like, no, we're trying to do something for the betterment of everyone, and I would never spend a penny of that on anything irresponsible. If I spend a penny if I go to a nice meal, it's on my dime for something that I've done externally. Like, we have very stringent bookkeeping practices thanks to Jennifer. She's got an MBA.
She's amazing. Anyway.
She won't let me touch the money.
No.
It's going to other stuff. So, guys, rest assured, maybe I'll even open the books. I don't know. Let people see. There's not really any secrets in there, but...
SEC filings, man. We're going to be a Fortune 5,000 company one day.
I don't know about that. All right, so
Samsung
has been suing Nvidia because Nvidia sued Samsung, and someone's pants are going to be off soon because these lawsuits are getting out of hand. The lawsuit was basically surrounding Nvidia's Tegra platform, which is the mobile platform, because they want to do a lot with a little space. And they were upset. They filed some complaints about Samsung, and Samsung sued them. So now we're in a big mess. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with all this.
I'll sum this entire lawsuit thing up. Nvidia and Samsung met on the playground, and they had the really sour face, and they're like, "You're a meanie poo-poo head. No, you're a meanie poo-poo head. No, you are." And
hold on, I think it started with Samsung was walking home, and Nvidia stuck their head out and was like, "Hey, poop face!" And Samsung's like, "What? Leave me alone." They're like, "Poop face, you're poop face. Come here, poop face. Want to get your face punched in?"
I have a lot of high respect for lawsuits in this manner.
And then Samsung turned around and like puffed up, and everybody's like, "Oh shit!"
And just said, "Your mom." And
Nvidia's like, "Oh god!"
Hilarity ensued. Anyway, this is just ridiculous. This is bad for the industry in general. Not what's going on, or the argument itself. I think is bad for the industry, and it's just really
a lot of the patents that Nvidia's arguing about are from 1990. They'll be expired next year. And
Samsung's arguing it, Nvidia's arguing it. It's like I said, it's a back and forth. It's just stupid, and I think that the entirety of it is they should just shake hands, get along, and move forward with the betterment of mankind. I mean, something. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. All right, hoverboards catching on fire. Lithium-ion batteries, bad idea.
Lithium polymers, actually, but yes, they're fantastic. These things, they get slightly damaged. They puff up like little balloons. They burst.
Explode.
And then they explode.
So these things, it's not like a gazillion of these things. There's only been 12 incidents in the USA, and that's not a lot, but 12 houses burned down is a lot. I mean, they don't always end that way.
Sometimes it's rooms, sometimes it's houses, sometimes it's one of them was actually sitting outside of a kiosk saying, "Hey guys, you should come." Don't buy this. Don't buy. It was pretty bad.
The thing is, on the inside of those, there's like a liquid element, and when it mixes, there's a very thin wall between that and the rest of the elements on the inside. If that's punctured anyway, sometimes if they're poorly made, there's like little bits of stuff in the fluid that can puncture it. You don't have to externally puncture it all the time.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different ways for these things to.
Or sometimes they're wired wrong. I mean, there's a myriad of different reasons why a lithium polymer battery will just blow up like a balloon. Sometimes it's just normal use will do this. Sometimes it's prolonged use will do this.
Sometimes it's using the wrong AC adapter, even though those are very specialized, strange AC adapters. But people, they'll go out of their way to do the wrong thing.
Well, some of these that literally some guy was like writing on it, and he's like looks down and like, what's going on? Gets off of the damn thing, and he's just in the middle of the sidewalk, and the thing bursts into flames. Anyway,
he looked really cool for a few minutes.
If you want to guarantee that one of yours won't blow up, don't buy one.
Yeah. Verizon is joining the fight against net neutrality by considering they're starting to make their streaming TV app, what's the word I'm looking for here, exempt from their data caps.
Yeah, because they're like, no, net neutrality. No, actually, it's they went into a joint venture with an app that does some video streaming stuff, and they're saying, oh, this won't be count against your data caps. And I'm just like head desk. I'm like, the way they got around the net neutrality stuff is. AOL bought all of the data, like has effectively pre-purchased all of the data for everyone to use.
Data caps are completely ridiculous, in my opinion.
And then going into it's
beyond completely ridiculous. But here's how stupid either the CEO of Comcast is, or how stupid he thinks we are, because the way he describes data caps. Let's just read a little quote from him, because he thinks that data caps need to be completely the norm, and unlimited data needs to not be a thing anywhere in the world. He says, and I'm going to quote him in a funny accent because he's a dumbass. Just as with everything in your life, if you drive 100,000 miles or 1,000 miles, you buy more gasoline. If you turn on the air conditioner to 60 versus 72, that's not in Celsius, you consume more electricity. The same is true for broadband usage. Cellular data is already billed this way. The more bits you use, the more you pay. So why not cable internet too? Well, I'll tell you why not cable internet too, because data is not a finite resource. Bandwidth is the problem here, and all you have to do is add more ports, and it barely uses any extra electricity. We're talking about pennies.
See, now this is where, like I said, enterprise-grade billing is, well, at least in the ones that I've used, is billed on what they call the 95th percentile. And the idea is that 95% of the time, you're using this much bandwidth. So it's not about how much data you're passing. I mean, it could be measured that way, but it really has nothing to do with the quantity of data that you're passing. It's that 95% of the time you are using this much bandwidth, therefore you pay this price. And on enterprise grade stuff on the backbones, that can be like a lot. So, I mean, in this case, this guy's an idiot. And it's a really nice business model. This is another one of those cases of it's a really great business model from their perspective, but you don't but at the same time, a funeral home would really like their business to boom, which means they want the entire city they live in for the people to just start dying. But you don't have the guy running the funeral home going, man, business is slow. I really wish a lot of people would start dying today. He might think that, and ultimately for his business to boom, that's what needs to happen. But he won't say that out loud because it's insensitive and stupid to say that. It's like smash head into desk. Anyway,
there's a really interesting, I mean, in order to figure out the cost of data, data, see, the thing, they always liken data to like water or something that's finite that we could run out of. But it's not. What we have to worry about is bandwidth and the electricity needed. That's it.
I think that they should look, instead of having data caps, I think they should look into implementing a 95th percentile billing model for consumer markets. And that way, he gets what he wants. People are paying for the bits they're using, sort of. And then we as power users will be paying a higher price, but I don't think we should start like the pricing model as, oh, well, these people over here who are barely using it and spending $80 a month on internet connectivity, that shouldn't be the base. That base should be a lot lower than that. So if they're only using like 2 or 3 megs, like on a 95th percentile a month, 2 or 3 megs of data, like right. 2 or 3 megs of bandwidth a month, like on a 95th percentile, so meaning 95% of the time they're using 2 megs of data or 2 megs of bandwidth, that they would get billed proportionately to that versus, guys like you and me who are using.
So what you're saying is like a power bill. You're using more.
Because even a power bill is a consumption function where right. it's you're being billed on kilowatt hours used. What I'm saying is if you had a like a pipe of water and you only had a trickle coming through it, but you have this huge pipe. It doesn't really matter how big the pipe is, but you only have a trickle of water coming through that. And 95% of the time, you're only passing a gallon a day, as opposed to like a farm might be passing 50 gallons a day or 500,000 gallons a day.
Yeah, more like that. Yeah.
And it's not so much that they're using 500,000 gallons in a day or over the course of the month, they're using all of these gallons of water. It's that they are streaming that much water, they are streaming that much bandwidth. They're using that much bandwidth at any given moment. So the amount of electricity that is being used by you for only using, a couple of megs on average a month versus somebody like you and me who are using a couple of 100 megs on average a month on any given second, 100 megs a second on average over the course of the month.
I don't know if I fully agree or not. I think that the companies should be forced to continue to upgrade their services because of the amount of money that they are making. It is their responsibility to stay modern with their infrastructure.
Well, hear me out on this one. So, I agree with you. But what if everybody got gigabit? Mm-hmm. The people who don't use it are only using it to watch Netflix or only using it to look at Facebook. Well, that's the way
it already works. They already oversell by 10 times.
But what if everybody had it?
Yeah.
And then you pay based on the quantity that you're using in any given, or like I said, a 95th percentile. You'd have to look at the math and you have to look at the arc over the course of a month. It's not so much that you're using 300 gigs a month. It's that over the course of a month, if you are using 50 megs a second on average, every second, 95% of the time over the course of the month, you would pay a price. This is how enterprise grade backbone bandwidth is billed. And on that stuff's really expensive. But I'm saying if everybody had gigabit and that was the way it was billed, these guys could upgrade their infrastructure. People who are using a lot would pay substantially more than the people who aren't using any. But it's not. I don't think we'd be paying like $1,000 versus like $5. I think it'd be like $5 versus $100. But I mean, we're already paying $100 a month for 100 megs that we're not even able to get because they're blocking us on half the stuff.
If you get gigabit and you're using 100% of it the entire month, they're still making money off of you. Like even if you're paying the regular price, I don't know if they need to. If they figure out a way to bill per usage, they're going to overcharge, and that's the thing I think we need to try to avoid because they're going to screw you any way they can. And we have to just say, listen, you guys have to upgrade your infrastructure. That's the only thing I can see. They're making so much money.
Well, right now they're making so much money because they're overcharging they're oversubscribing their backbone lines.
Yeah, and they can still oversell 10 to 1. That's what they do. That's just the way the industry works. They oversell like 10 to 1, sometimes 100 to 1 in some cases we've seen. But they have to upgrade and add. They just need to add more ports and make a bigger pipe. That's all. It's not like it's that big of a deal with the amount of money that they're making. They should be forced to do it. Like, they should be compelled by the government. I'm sorry. The government needs to step in and be like, dude, upgrade your infrastructure or we're going to take over. They do it Russia style. Be like, this is bad for the people. Upgrade your freaking infrastructure and stop being babies.
The only reason we're in a position where that right there is the solution is because you've got places like here in Seattle where Comcast has a monopoly on
30-year contract.
30-year contract on the television production. And then you get companies like Verizon want to move in and like, hey, we'll put fiber optics in here, but we can't put TV in there.
Not worth our time.
Not worth our time, because that's where they really make the big bucks, I guess. So anyway, the whole thing is stupid, and I just want to go to Mars and set up a LAN and play Quake.
There you go. Internet freedom is actively dissolving in America. How about this? I didn't read this one. Was it even on the list?
Yeah.
I missed it.
This right here is like an opinion piece covering everything we just talked about. Go read this one. This one's pretty crazy. It basically, there's a couple of parts in here that I think are really stupid, and I'd like to call the author out on. But ultimately, it basically says that data caps suck. Net neutrality, as we would like to think of it as in the open internet, is slowly dwindling to nothing. When it comes to data caps throttling, there's a whole bunch of other crap. Those are the ones that I'm seeing readily on forward there. But what really bothers me is, and I'm going to call this entire friggin' article out on this one, is the stats that they're quoting are all adults, only African Americans, rural residents, and then income. And I'm like, why are African Americans segregated on this statistic? Why is that even relevant?
Because they always get the worst piece of the pie.
So I don't want to, I'm just gonna put this out there as something you guys can go read through it, look at that, and it's just that was the thing that stood out to me. I thought that was just a really dumb segregation. It's like you have all adults, rural, all adults everywhere, rural people, city folk.
Well, they have a separate category here for household income under 20K.
That's a different thing altogether.
I know, but they should just put African Americans into whatever income bracket they're in and make them part of the statistic.
Well, I'm just saying that the segregation of skin color, I think, is just stupid on this. Well, in general, but in that article, it stood out to me. I'm like, this is 2015. What the hell? So there's my soapbox for that one. But read the article itself.
Their stats are quite a bit.
I don't think that is. Their
stats are significantly worse than the others. That's
but why don't we have Japanese Americans or Chinese Americans or just Asians as we'd like?
Because they don't have an alarming statistic. They're not good for sensational news.
Well, poor people have a very similar stat, but they
yeah. All right, let's move on. Same-sex marriages could have a biological child of their own. Are you ready? It's a war on Christmas. Is that what this war?
Yeah, because this is. Oh, actually, what's really interesting.
It really is a war on Christmas.
Sure, absolutely. No, what's really cool about this technology? They've actually been using this on rats, and they're looking at making this possible. They basically take a stem cell and they turn it into a gamete and then fertilize it. Or in some cases, they'll take. They take the stem cell and they turn it into a zygote, and then they fertilize an egg for genders. Whatever. The other thing that's really interesting,
stock image.
What's really scary or interesting, depending on how you want to look at it, is single parents will have the ability to basically take. I don't know where they're pulling they just said single parents are able to take.
They just get genetic material from both, basically.
Well, single parents.
Right.
Or a single parent.
Oh yeah, but they could
just do they just cloning themselves, or are they grabbing material from somebody else that they're like, I want you, and they just take a stem cell?
I think they're just actually creating a zygote or an embryo out of total genetic material from one.
That right there scares me. Everything else about this is awesome, but like the misuse of this kind of technology always weirds me out.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Because I'm all about making about 1,000 clones of myself.
That sounds weird.
Yes.
One thing that's kind of weird about this, speaking of weird, those two guys right there from GettyImages.com, those guys with their little baby, they can't do this on their own. They can do something, but they need...
They still need a surrogate.
Yeah, they need someone to help them. So they're going to have to get... Can you imagine that? Sitting down with their friend and be like, listen, we want to have a baby. That'd be an ugly baby. And...
beard out of the womb.
It'll come out and punch the doctor.
It's the kind of thing that'll give you nightmares.
You just think of that. Come right out and punch the doctor. Anyway, so we want to have a baby, and we want you to carry it in your womb for 9 months and go through the vomiting, and then have your insides torn.
That's a surrogate, and that happens all the time. But the difference is that usually when you have a surrogate, you'll have an egg from somewhere. Some female pull an egg from that, and you get the zygote and the gamete, and you pull them together, and you just embed them in the surrogate. In this case, it would actually be two guys, stem cell from one turn into a gamete, zygote from the other one turn into and then they embed it into the surrogate.
Websites don't do shit like this. It makes me not want to ever come back to your stupid website. This fucking pop-up thing. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't.
What's the matter with you? Someone hit you in the head with a brick? What's the matter with you? Do you not care about any of your user? What's the matter with you? All right, let's move right along then. Guys, go check out our video here. We got back from China, put together the video of the overclocking event. And I think we really need to explain to some people out there why people overclock. So we are going to make a video just talking about why, because a lot of people are like, this is pointless. This is so stupid. And why is everyone getting together and doing this to their hardware? It makes no difference. They're only doing it for 5 minutes, and the overclocks are not...
My favorite comment that I've seen, and this is one of those things that I see all the time, is that you got all these overclockers. You overclock this thing to world record speeds, play League of Legends. I'm glad that those things are not mutually exclusive in your mind. Thank you very much. Please watch the video where we describe and explain why people in this kind of environment overclock to the extremes that they do and why they do it. It's going to be really awesome. I was of the same mind, this is kind of dumb. I don't really see the point in doing this kind of thing. For me. And then once watching this and talking to some of these guys, it really, it set in. And I was like...
It makes a lot of sense to overclock in extreme situations. Or do some extreme overclocking.
You don't do this to play games. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah. So anyway, the other thing I want to say is some people were really... most people liked the video. There was a couple guys out there who messaged me and they were like, dude, this was a terrible video. You didn't show any details on, what they were doing, how the timings they were changing. You didn't get in their face while they were working, basically is what I was reading. You didn't get in their face while they were working and demand to know how they were doing it. Listen, that would have ruined everything for these guys. They are on the wire. They are trying to win a contest. They are pushing their stuff to the limits. Just coming up to them with my camera and shooting a little bit of B-roll that I did, shooting a few shots, was I felt bad because I would sometimes get in their way.
It was very invasive.
Yeah, and they don't have time for that bullshit. What they have time to maybe do is after we're done, we could sit down and make a tutorial. Or if you guys, if there's any certain one there, as we travel, maybe the next time we're in Germany or something, we can talk to Dan and see if he wants to sit down with us and give us a really awesome tutorial. That's how we should do that sort of thing. We should not do it in their face at an event. That is stupid. And the guys that are upset about that and want the freaking beard is growing, I can feel it is strong with you guys, but just watch it and loosen up a little bit. That's what I'm trying to say. There's some people on the internet who just feel like everything is beneath them no matter what. And that's cool. You're a bad person. That's fine. We understand. Just loosen up and enjoy something, or don't. And then, sit there. But, you don't always have to feel like everything is beneath you on the internet. I know a lot of people do, but
right now, I just want to say, don't feed the trolls.
I'm not trying to feed the trolls.
No, not you. I'm just saying in general. Just don't feed them.
I'm just trying to... That's one thing I've noticed that not on just this video in particular, but that whole mentality where everything is beneath them. I forget there's an actual word for it, and neckbeard is not the word. There's an old word.
We'll figure it out, and we're just going to post it on the bottom of the
video. Someone can help me. It's like people started using this word maybe over 100 years ago. Someone would show up at a party and they're like a fucking snood and they're like, everything is beneath them. There's a word for that type of person, and we see a lot of that on the internet. It's easy to do that when you're in your own little room and stuff.
I have a lot of colorful words that I will not put here because it's not the word you're looking for. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Because that was cool. Go watch the video. It's nifty. I put this right next to that article or that video because this blows my mind. This is something that we've all been kind of half joking about when we go to CES or Computex and we talk to some of the graphics cards or the CPU guys and we have a conversation with them and we're all joking one of these days, all those little trace lines down here, there's going to be fiber optics. It's happening.
And what's interesting about this is it's already 50, 100 times faster than a traditional chip. It doesn't generate heat because there's not electricity moving around.
Well, the chip itself has got a lot of... there's electricity that powers the chip, and then it's powering like photon emitters that are using infrared light to pass information between transistors and diodes and whatnot.
And the wavelength of infrared light is less than a micron. And the other thing that's interesting about that is they can use several different colors at the same time to pass plenty of information. So we have a lot of bandwidth here. Lots and lots and lots of
bandwidth. EDB living space.
And the other thing that really blows my mind, we should also give credit where credit's due. This is University of Colorado Boulder, University of California, Berkeley, and MIT have all been working together on this. So those guys are awesome. Now, one thing that's really cool about this is they have been able to integrate it into standard ICs. Just standard integrated circuits are working with this. So it will work with your old silicon-based stuff. You could just swap out the processor for this tiny little processor. It's only 3 millibytes. What's that? 3 millimeters by 6 millimeters. It's very small. As you can see right here, there it is. Tiny.
And this is, like I said, this is test model. As they be able to scale this and turn it into like a CPU, what is going to end up happening is you're going to have your CPU that's going to be powered by this, and its communication to like the North Bridge and South Bridge and all those other fun components on the motherboard. That's all going to be transmitted via fiber optic. So I'm rereading Neuromancer and Snow Crash and a bunch of these other really cool Gibson and Stevenson books, and a lot of the times they're half referencing plugging a fiber optic cable into your computer, and that's what powers it. And I don't think that's quite going to happen yet, but the idea of just plugging in a big fiber optic clunk and suddenly that's where you're getting your data stream, it's happening.
It's a could be. I'm not sure if I expect these to replace x86 or anything like that, or even be compatible with x86, but you never know what they're going to do.
Again, it's the underlying technology is there. So x86 is it's the architecture of the instruction set. So if you can translate the instruction set from the transistors into these light transmissions, which I think they're going to figure out sometime in the next couple of years.
Well, that and the other thing is it's so fast that it could do emulation.
True.
Without much trouble.
Well,
and it can run things.
Maybe it's the next stage in architecture. But once you switch to the next architecture, anyway, we get into a whole other thing there. Wendell can explain that in great length. Yes, he can.
All right. This one I'm just going to mention and move on because we've got to leave in about 4 minutes to get you to the airport.
Yeah.
Elon Musk sat down, and this is about an hour-long video where they just talked about his vision for the future. And there's some pretty enlightening things in there because this is. I mean, it's what his vision of the future is and what he thinks the future is going to happen, but he's also someone who's actively involved in pushing things that are going to be good for the future. So when he sits down and talks about the future, I think it's worth listening to. There's some interesting ideas in there. And also, if you're someone who's just getting into the age where you want to know what sort of school you should go into, I would use this as sort of a barometer to judge what's going to be important. I mean, it's not going to be 100% what he says, like it never is when the future comes about, but the things that he's talking about could be important industries that you should start looking at.
Adding to that is that this is a guy who not only is involved in the industry, he is leading a lot of charges in different aspects. So when he starts talking about things, he goes, I think this right here is going to be something that might happen. He may already have the groundwork laid out to do those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. So watch that video. This is interesting. Israel and China are working together. They've been working together for a while on robots, but an Israel firm has been working on robots to replace lots of workers in everything from farms to construction to factories.
To janitors, to security guards, construction workers, you name it. One
of the interesting things is, everyone, we've been to China a few times in the last few years, and yes, they are building cities everywhere. We rode on the train from Wuhan to Shenzhen, and that's like
a 5-hour bullet train ride at 200 kilometers an hour.
Well, it was almost 300 most of the time, but it was like 290 or something like that most of the time. Anyway, the entire time, I never saw the end of cranes and buildings and it's infrastructure and roads. It's unbelievable. And so they're building all this stuff. But the idea is they're moving everyone from outside of the farms and stuff into the cities. And something really weird happens when they do that. When China moves people to the cities, suddenly the middle class goes up. Whereas here, when people move out of the quality of life may or may not go up. But here, when you move people to the cities, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and you have people on the streets. It's weird how there, the middle classes are getting bigger and bigger, and the younger generations are getting used to a different lifestyle, and they don't really want to work in the fields and factories anymore. So China is doing this so that they can allow those guys to innovate, work in companies, work in cities. Because their cities are so big, they can really support the infrastructure. The infrastructure is so big, they can really support the population now. It's crazy. And some of these cities that are vacant now are going to start filling up. And one of the big things that they're going to need are these robots working in the field to make sure the harvests come in, to make sure the buildings get finished, to make sure the factories still make all their stuff. So I don't think it's going to disrupt the workforce as much as people think it is.
I think it's just going to change it.
Yeah. And that's, I don't want to say scary, that's interesting, because it'll allow those people who normally did kind of boring tasks that don't use a lot of their brain, it's going to allow them to start using their brain, and who knows what they can come up with, because it's such a big country.
And when we say boring tasks that you don't use a lot of your brain is I've been in an assembly line before. It is monotonous and it is boring.
We do have assembly lines here in the USA, and we used to have we had a lot of the Industrial Revolution happened, and then beginning of the turn of the century, and then first 20,
China
30.
right now is having their Industrial Revolution, and there is a lot of manual assembly lines, and there's a lot of automated assembly lines depending on the type of product that you're dealing with. Like the stuff that we've seen is a lot of manual process, which is great, but it's also, there's a lot of like the cases that we've seen built, it's very, very automated. For like 80% of it's automated, and then there's like a finishing touch is done by hand.
Yeah, a guy will lap it by hand or something.
Yeah, and then when you look at like a mouse, or you're looking at the case fans, those things are very manual from beginning to end, and that could be automated, but that would also, in the current transition, it would destroy a lot of those jobs. And there's like, we're moving these people into the space, giving them these jobs. And anyway, there's a whole other line of thinking that I've gone too far into as it is.
Maybe we don't have time for that. These top 5 lists are silly, but I wanted to bring this up just because I want to mention that a few episodes ago, I was like, hey, what if Google got together with some different partners out there and was like, hey, let's make a Nexus car. Google said they weren't going to make their own car, but you know what? A few weeks later, here they are working with Ford to make an autonomous vehicle.
Or working toward the idea of an autonomous vehicle. So it's either going to be a fully autonomous Ford powered by Google, or Google's auto drive system, or it's going to be a semi-autonomous car, in which case the manufacturing lines for the cars are going to remain relatively similar. There's just going to be some added pieces that are going to add onto it. But if they go completely autonomous cars, the manufacturing process may change drastically. So I mean, anyway, but it's
all going to be about regulations at that point. And,
Yeah.
and there's, the California, I don't think they want to have cars without a human sitting inside them. But who knows what's going to happen with all this. I think it's going to be interesting now, because that'll give Ford a huge boost, and it'll also give Google a boost, because each company's going to be able to focus on what they do best. So if you're another car company out there, I would be calling Google and be like, can we get version 2? Can we get the Nexus 2 car or whatever?
Yeah.
I would be trying to get in line. Or, I don't know, working with another company out there. Is Baidu doing anything like this as far as autonomous vehicles? They're mostly working on AI and stuff.
Yeah.
There's got to be some other companies out there. I don't know, but it's a huge task, and you're going to need a big company to be able to implement all these things, make all the systems work together. So yeah. All right. Speaking of that, TaxiOS has been approved in California. It's now the first governmental approval of any kind of an app to call or hail a taxi. There's other taxi companies out there that have apps and stuff, but
this one is using the phone and GPS to track pickup, time in cab, and drop off distance. The same way that the meter works, but it's done with the app and the GPS. Where Uber is kind of, sometimes there's flat fares, sometimes there's other ones, but it's not the same kind of meter.
It's like, oh, there's no one on the road right now, let's jack the rates up and all that kind of stuff. They won't be able to jack the rates up. They'll be able to lower the rates if it's a slow time of day, but they've said in here that they're not going to do like the whatever, I forgot what the surge rate, because of all that. They're not going to do that. I think what's interesting here for me is this entire article. There's lots of words in this article, and all I'm reading is, hey, these guys were behind in the technology. They complained. They tried doing everything they could. They went over, they instead of competing directly, they went to the government officials and they're like, let's shut down Uber and Lyft. Let's shut them down. They're ruining the industry. And in some places it worked. We had the restrictions on Uber and different rules and stuff like that. And a lot of people are still complaining that Uber doesn't follow the same rules as a taxi company, because they've gotten around it by saying, we're not a taxi company. So there's all that's been going on. But right now, all I'm reading here is that the taxi industry is starting to modernize. That's pretty much all I'm reading.
Yeah, that's great. So this is kind of nifty. This is actually really cool. We're going to end on this really awesome note of Oculus. They announced that they're not going to put the pre-orders on sale right now. We're going to wait till after the holidays, wait till after the first of the year. So sometime, I'm guessing the first couple of weeks of January, we're going to get a pre-orders kickoff for the Oculus Rift. And I'm really hoping that they do the smart thing and they put it out on the market for $300. The DK2 was $350. If they put it out as a production model for this as being $300 or less, would be phenomenal. That's my guess. I'm hoping. Cross fingers.
Last thing I want to mention: Steam sales going on. What'd you guys get? Did you guys get anything? I finally got Rocket League, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to play it, but everyone kept telling me, please get this so we can play this. Did you get anything yet? Satellite Rain.
I picked up Satellite Rain. It looked like a modernized revisioning of Syndicate Plus, which I was like, this is kind of neat, so I went and picked that up. And it's real time, so it's not like turn-based, it's real time. And then I picked up, what was it, the Water Dogs?
Water Dogs?
No, dogs.
Sea Dogs.
Sea Dogs. No, what was the...
Water Dogs? That smells awful.
What was the name of that game?
I don't remember which one you're talking about.
The Hong Kong one.
Oh, Sleeping Dogs.
Sleeping Dogs. I have no idea. Dogs. I bought it and I downloaded it. I haven't even opened it yet, but I know what it is. So it's kind of didn't this come out before?
Oh yeah.
The other one that I still
GTA
can't.
5?
No, not GTA 5. The other hacker game that bombed really bad.
Oh yeah, it came out before Watch Dogs. The other dog game.
That's what I was thinking. Watch Dogs, but I know it wasn't that one.
You just put them together and made Water Dogs?
Water Dogs, yeah. It's kind of like Hot Dogs.
I don't even know.
Maybe like a wiener dog? I don't know.
They need to make a wiener dog game. I'm really bummed because the sequel to Sleeping Dogs just got canceled. It was Triad Wars, I think. And I think it's probably a better single-player experience than GTA 5. The combat's on another level. It's because there's martial arts tied in. It's not just we're up and just it's not just that. There's actually a cool combat system.
I wonder if it's like the old Matrix games. They had a really nifty martial arts combat system. I will tell you when I play it if it's like that.
I haven't played the old Matrix games, so I can't speak to that either. But I think it's a great game, and the environment is way more appealing to me than running around in an environment with like thugs and gangsters and hitmen and mafia and all that stuff. That kind of bores me. It's like the entirety of American pop culture, which I know the British company Rockstar is making fun of in GTA 5, which is kind of funny, but man, I get tired of just like the whole... I get tired of that nonsense after a while. It's like, yeah, I get it. We're dumb and we listen to dumb music and we do dumb things and we trip over our pants.
And then we beat people up.
Yeah,
and then we steal cars. And then we flip cars. And then we make cars fly.
We only beat up women. There's no men actually beat up in that game. Did you know that?
I think they should roll out an update that makes a bunch of male prostitutes and transvestite prostitutes that you can beat up. Not that I want to have people go out and beat them up. I just think it levels the playing field of that kind of scuzzy side of the world.
Equal opportunity ass kicking.
Though at the same time, I'm not saying that prostitution is a scuzzy thing, but in certain places where it is illegal, it is usually a really scuzzy kind of environment. I'm digging a really deep hole here. There are places in this world where prostitution is legal and those women have the right to do that, and I'm more power to them.
Hey, this game, Life is Strange, is only $249 right now for episode 1. That game will mess with your brain.
Which one's this?
You think it's a click adventure that you think is a high school drama. It looks like a cheesy high school drama, and then you realize as you're playing it that it's surreal and strange and out there, and it forces you to make choices that actually, like, in the morning, if you get up and it's like that toaster is there, should you take the toast or not? That's a big decision. It's weird. Like, it unlike a lot of the games that Telltale makes, where the only difference at the end is who's alive and who's dead, but the outcome is still the same. This one, I feel like the choices are weighty, and the writing is better than most movies.
And the toaster is talking to you.
I don't even know if that's actually a thing. It might be. But anyway, that game is worth checking out.
And it's only $250
for the episode 1. You can get all episodes 1 through 5 for $13.39. But
that's not bad.
It's cheaper than the price of a movie ticket. Way more as far as, I mean, you'll have more time of enjoyment compared to a 2-hour movie.
For $14, that's a great price. I mean, even if it was like the Wolf Among Us, that was really fun, and that one cost me more than that. So there you go. Check that one out.
We got to go to the airport.
Yes,
so you guys in the comments, thank you very much. Like and subscribe and rate and do all those other things. Have a lot of Christmas, holiday, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. What else have I missed?
And set your tree on fire.